So I just want to welcome both of you to joining us tonight on our virtual forum. The first thing I want to do before we start is acknowledge that we are on Treaty 8 and the Métis Zone 6 lands and territories. It's important for us to recognize, where we are residing, where we learn, where we do our business, and we're grateful to be able to participate in this forum this evening. So welcome to the second forum, candidate forum for the Town of Peace River's elections, and thank you for joining us. So it's important for us that you are heard and that you participate openly. I know that we have just spent a little bit of time going over some of the rules with regards to the moderation and how this is going to proceed. But please be candid, be open. We're going to try and make this a relaxing and enjoyable experience for you so that the residents of Peace River can better hear who you are and what you want to represent on their behalf. We want to also make sure we encourage people to go out and vote on October 8th and 9th at the advanced polls, as well as the 12th in the town of Peace River, and they'll be at the ski hill, the Misery Mountain Ski Chalet. So I am Amber Armstrong. This is Victoria Champion. We'll be your co-moderators this evening. We also have in the background Jody Bekovich. Jody Bekovich is going to be our technical moderator. She's here to assist us. If you have any questions or comments or issues, then we'll be able to address those at that time. What we want to do, though, is we want to start with opening statements. I'm going to hand this over to Victoria, and she's going to go through a few of the ground rules, and then we'll move on from there. Victoria?
Thank you, everyone, again for joining us. For each candidate, the biggest rule is just simply that we respect each other's answers without interruption and just respecting the platform and respecting the town of Peace River. So we will provide the time allocated for each response. If your time is close to being up, we will notify you as we previously discussed. You should then just wrap up your comments, finish your sentence. If you continue to go over that time, as a moderator, we may have to intervene, but we do encourage you to continue your conversation after our forum is over, if you so choose, and whatever platform works for you. Please feel comfortable and consider this next hour as a community conversation. We are all local residents and citizens who are interested in just hearing more about you and your plans for the town of Peace River and being a council member. Amber, Jody, and myself are here to encourage you and support you through this process. So we will be asking for opening statements. We will be asking Cheryl to go first and then Ted to go second. And you will each have 3 minutes to provide your opening statement. We will be timing them, and just if there's anything that comes up, then we will just make sure to notify you, okay? So 3 minutes. Cheryl, do you feel ready for your opening statement?
Sure. Just start?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you guys for setting this up, Amber. I really appreciate the initiative and everyone who jumped on board with you. Really cool idea to be able to get our message out in another format than the one forum we did. So I really appreciate that. My name is Cheryl Fitchie. I am running as a counselor, running in hopes to be a counselor. I've lived in Peace River for 27 years. My husband and I moved here for work. At the time, he was working in Fort Smith with Transport Canada, and I was working in Calgary with Royal Bank. And this was the town we could both relocate to. We'd already gotten married and we're living apart, and we could both come to Peace River, which was perfect. So we came here young and excited and started our family, and absolutely have loved the community, have loved raising our kids in a small town. We've both have been involved in many different organizations in town, school council, swimming clubs, soccer, gymnastics, whatever the kids were involved, basically I was involved in, and in a volunteer capacity on boards or whatever. And we just got entrenched into the community. We knew lots of people, and it's what made us keep our roots here. We had opportunities to transfer several times and decided that this was the best place to be. Raising our kids in a small town, we knew the teachers knew us, we knew the parents who the kids were going over to, and it was wonderful. We have no regrets at all. Now my son is at university, studying law, and his intent is to come back and practice in Peace River. And so we'd like to stay here and retire in Peace River, and we want the best community we can have. We want to be able to, I want to give back to the community that helped me raise my kid here, my kids, plural. I want to make a difference and make it a welcoming community, thriving community, that the university kids want to come back here. That when people are looking to transfer, that Peace River is on their list of places to go to when they come up for their first initial checkout, that they find it to be a welcoming and warm community. And I think we're off a little bit on that right now. And I think
15 seconds, Cheryl.
I think we can turn it around. I'm excited to see so many people running. Lots of people want to see some change. And I'm excited. I'm excited that on the slate of 20 people, there's, you know, a dozen fantastic options. And it's encouraging to see that. And I think I'm out of time. So I would be thrilled if I am your pick to sit on as council for the town of Peace River. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. Ted, are you ready for your opening statement? And a reminder, you'll have to unmute.
So, no, but we have to do it anyway. I'm really nervous. I'm just gonna pretend like we're all friends. Me, a lot of people used to know who I was, and a lot of people knew who my father was. And I'll do stuff like this because this is a visual presentation as well as audio. So, and as we all know, I have ADHD, because if you drive around town and look at my signs, I can't even make up my mind what I'm gonna say. Because instead of just, hey, I'm Ted, vote for me, I had the courage to try and show you how hard I'm gonna work for you guys when I get into office. By stuff like saying something instead of just the same old thing that you've seen that everybody did for the last 20 years. So if you look at my signs and the amount of work that I had to put into them, they're built on a different level. I use local materials from local merchants, and I built them in a way that my signs are solid, because it said you're not allowed to have any moving objects on your signs. And with how picky some of our upper echelon staff have been about our sign placement, 7 days into the campaign, he changes the rules. And then it's 2 meters, which is the provincial highway standard, was never supposed to apply in town. Now you got to be 2 meters. And if you're a couple of inches out, he's going to rip your sign out of there. When it's all of us people that want to help our other people, talking to each other. And it's more important that the sign is within this little bit when it's only up for 30 days and it's all of us trying to work this out. How is that a helpful decision? It's just nitpicking and seriously misjudged micromanaging. So we're all going to bring that to an end. And hopefully when I say we, that's going to mean me with your help. Because without everybody believing that I can make a difference, I'll just be one of the horses that gets left on the track. So if my signs speak for what I'm going to try and do, because of the quality of how they were constructed and the difference, I want our town to be like that again, back to where it used to be. The streets were clean, The cracks were paved. Just the infrastructure didn't look like we're a dirty bunch of people that didn't care when tourists come in here. It used to be, it looked so nice and it was inviting. And by just doing that to start off with, it leads towards
15 seconds, Ted.
So that's, you know, my dad, lots of people knew him. It's awful big shoes to fill. And if this gives you a sense of who and what I'm going to do, then hey, I'm going to work my ass off for you. And I am smart, and I'll be up in every part of this, and I will know what's going on at the town shops. I will know what projects our infrastructure is going through. I will know what our CAO who works for us is doing, and I will make sure that we're accountable and everybody else knows too. And I'll have my nose up in the business and help get this fixed. They ain't gonna like it when I come down there, but that's too bad. You shouldn't have.
Thank you, Ted. Sorry, you're out of time.
Sorry,
Okay.
thanks, Ted. You know, and I appreciate what you're saying, you know, at the beginning of your statement, Ted, was, you know, you're going to treat us like we're friends, right? That, you know, we've all grown up or we've been in our community for a long time. So I do appreciate your sincerity and your genuine response. The next thing we want to do, like just keeping this in the conversation mode, is we want to ask you some specific questions. So Cheryl, for yourself, and for yourself, Ted, Victoria and I have gone through that 4 pages of questions that we provided to all of the candidates. And we selected 2 that we thought that we would give to you. It would give you the opportunity to give your thoughts on it, and we'll be able to better understand where you're at as far as being a councillor for the town of Peace River. So we're going to start first with yourself, Ted. There's going to be about 5 minutes for you to answer this, so just take some time. I'll repeat the question twice for you, and you're both getting the same question. So the moderator question number 1 is, what are your top 3 concerns regarding the Peace River economy? So I'll repeat it again. What are your top 3 concerns regarding the Peace River economy? Ted, we're going to start with you for 5 minutes. Victoria is going to start timing you, and we'll follow up with yourself, Cheryl. So go ahead, Ted.
Okay, we've got companies out there, for instance, like McMillan Construction, Rodney DeBolt with Northern Lights, and we've got Ritchie with Armstrong Construction, and we've got Rual, who recently changed their name. Now, those guys are out working in other parts of the province, and they're taking bids from other communities in the competitive world of that type of construction. And good for you guys, because you're bringing the bacon home to us, baby, and keep it up. So that part is great. And the other thing, when we do things around here, the other construction companies are going to come here and try and get our bids too, and rightfully so. But if your town office says the only thing they care about is just the very bottom line, and screw all those guys, they don't want them to make any money. Okay, that's great, the lowest bidder. But he's from Vegreville or wherever. We don't even know the names on the trucks anymore. And they're doing the same thing to us. The Ritchie and the boys are out collecting money. Their anthills are robbing us and taking it back there. All right, I want us to keep our stuff and us to get theirs, because I'm out for this town, and watch out for me, you other towns, because our strategy might be a little bit more smarter than what you did. So when we come to have bidding practices, you have to factor into the bids that even if our guys are $5,000 or a little bit different, more expensive than what was apparently the best bid, the lowest bid, if that's all you focus on, you can't see the bigger picture, that money stays home with us. Those guys work here. They spend their money locally, and it circulates our money around in our economy, and we don't have enough of it. And so if it's always the lowest bidder, and council doesn't consider that if the hidden costs of always giving it to somebody else because he was $5,000 less than Armstrong and they're from Vegreville, that $5,000 stays with us because it goes into the pockets of the guys that live here anyway. So it's a false flag. If all you say is we did a good job because we got the most cheapest bid, and you don't consider the bigger picture, like I just pointed out, that's insane. I want to keep our money circulating because we don't have enough of it. And I want those guys to go out and keep kicking ass and bring the money home to daddy, baby. That's what I want. The other thing I think we need to do is make sure that we clean it up, because if it looks like shit, people aren't going to want to come here. It's pretty simple to me. And that's important. Now, a new thing coming up is, oh my, the last lion. He's like 90 something and he lives over in the park there. And when he told me the story that he was the last one left and there was none other ones that joined, that made me so sad. So I want to make sure that this famous Lions campground is not going to be turned just into another housing subdivision with no thought to what it means. People have been coming here since the 1960s to enjoy our town, and they're right in the middle. They have to go shop up the hill or come into town, and they enjoy it, and it's comes back. Now the town of Peace River is going to own it. And if all you think about is lot fees and the rents and everything, there's a different ways to make money. And if we run it really well, if we look at the economics of keeping it going and advertising it and beautifying it and putting trees back and everything, and you want to improve tourism, be careful what you do with the lions now, people. And we should call it the Peace River Memorial Elmer Elter Lions Park, to remember the lions, our heritage, and Elmer, who ran it for so good, because I heard a high official in community services say, well, don't paint those buildings, don't paint them, because the town has way different, bigger plans that we're gonna do this thing. And like, really? You didn't ask me, and since when? And we need to be careful what we do there, because I think there's different ways to bring money here. And if we fix that up, make it nice again, you know, I think versus just turning it into another housing subdivision when it's been here since the 60s, it's not in our interest. We really got to look at that carefully. I don't like that traffic circle, the new one that they put in underneath the highway. You see people's tire marks across it. And if we just are brainy enough to change the shape and make it oval, and you watch the new part where the trucks come in, they got to turn way out like this and come back. Look, and on the side that's close to the bank, to the high school bank, look, you guys, we'll just take that part out of there and change the shape and just take away the part where the guys are driving across. They're already showing us what to do. There's lots of room there. And if we don't get in here before all the construction equipment leaves and everything, we can't get that changed. And it's brain dead to leave it like it is. And some of these bigger things we'll figure out as I go, okay? And I'm on your side, and you know I'm going to do good.
I appreciate that, Ted. Yeah, thank you for that. What I'll do is I will now move over to Cheryl. Cheryl, do you want me to repeat the question? Really, the question is, what are your top 3 concerns regarding the Peace River economy? And go ahead, Cheryl.
All right, top 3 concerns. My number 1 concern is the amount of debt that we're carrying as a town. We were sitting at about $12 million in debt when this council started. So 4 years ago, we were at about 12 million. And today, I think we're pushing 26 million. We're definitely over 25 million. So in 4 years, we've doubled our debt. That is not, there's nothing good about that. Yes, we have an arena to show for it, is probably what people are thinking. But we couldn't afford it in the first place, or we didn't do enough planning in the first place to have borrowed. The amount of money that we've had to borrow is very concerning to me. When I looked at the 2021 budget, which is really a really well done document, I must say, really easy to read, really user friendly. Kudos to whoever does that for the town. When I reviewed it, on the second or third page, it said that 30%, 20% of our tax dollars are going just towards debt repayment to the tune of $5 million. So if you could imagine, if we didn't have that monstrous debt, this town would be on fire. Like, oh my gosh, we'd have gold in our streets. $5.5 million we're putting towards debt every year. So people feel like, where's my tax dollar going? Well, 20% of it's going to pay debt. The other next biggest part of our budget is employees, which is great. We employ a lot of people, I think 100 people. So 30% or so goes towards employees. So half of our tax dollar go toward debt and payroll. Very concerning to me. That debt is very concerning. So we need to somehow either really tighten the belts or possibly look at reducing some services, which everyone's going to say, no, 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 the services are bad already. But you can't have it both ways. You can't have reduced taxes and maintain the service level that we have. What we need to do, though, is communicate with the community and find out what services they see value in. They're our customer. I've said this before. The community members, the residents are the customer of the town. We need to see, do you feel like you're getting a good return? Your taxes are $5,000 a year and you have potholes. Okay, that's not good. What are you getting? Do you feel you're getting a return on your investment? Just like a business looks at ROI. So if we can figure out where their priorities are, we can make sure that we're cutting in the areas that people can at least maybe not support, but tolerate for a few years until we get this debt under control. Interest rates are low, but if rates start going up, we are in just a world of trouble. So my biggest concern is the amount of debt that we're carrying, and people are already feeling overtaxed. I've heard that time and time again. What do I get for my taxes? And so it's a tough spot to be in for the town. You know, we want to maintain policing, we want to maintain infrastructure, we want to maintain services, swimming pools, arenas, ski hills. But there comes a point, if you're going to run somewhat like a business, you can't do it all. Or you have to increase the fees again. And the fees being either user fees or tax dollars. So I think that's my number one concern. We have businesses leaving and going elsewhere, going to the MDs. That would be a secondary concern. If we don't have the tax revenue, we're in double trouble here. So why are they leaving? Why are they building in the MD on the hill, either side, and not building in town? I've got a multitude of people saying different reasons. I haven't researched it well enough to know if there are that many opposition, that many roadblocks to building in the town, or if our taxes are that much higher. If they are, we need to address that, because getting $20,000 a year in taxes is better than zero. Maybe not as great as getting 40, but we're not going to get 40 because people are smart. They know if they can price, they're a commodity. They're our customer. How do you win over your customer? Is you treat them right, you treat them fair. They're just as good of a customer to Northern Sunrise as they are to us. We want them to be our customer. So we have to go after their business. We have to keep them happy.
10
We
seconds.
can't have businesses closing and losing that tax revenue. That's my top 2 of 3 concerns about our economy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cheryl, and to Ted, both of you for your responses. So we will move into question 2. Again, you will have 5 minutes to respond, and we will actually start with Cheryl this time, followed by Ted. So this is a 2-part question. Part 1, people believe what they see. What is the perception of the town of Peace River for its residents and people visiting the town? And 2, what would you do to change that perception, if anything? Just going to repeat that again. People believe what they see. What is the perception of the town of Peace River for its residents and people visiting the town? And what would you do to change that perception, if anything? Cheryl, you can go ahead.
All right. Yes, first impressions are critical. And I think of people who come to look for a house, that house hunting trip, people who come in looking to buy a business, expand a business. The first impression is very important. The other day, my son was home and his girlfriend was up and having supper. She's like, "What's with the town and no painted lines on their streets? Is that normal?" She's from Fort Saskatchewan. They paint lines on their streets, apparently. And our streets are weird. Like, is it 2 lanes? Is it 1 lane? It's big. It's a wide lane. And so I said, no, fair point. I'm used to there being hit and miss. Sometimes there's a line, sometimes there isn't, but we know the community. For a newbie, she was like, I didn't know if I was in the right lane because there were no lines. So it's things like that. The potholes, of course, potholes, all we hear about. And I don't know how much it costs to fill a pothole, but it's a critical thing. We've got to get some of these potholes filled and recognize that it really does impact the town. The weeds, we've got to get our bylaw guy to go and give a ticket now and then. Give a warning, then a ticket. I've said before in Grimshaw, where we have an office, if I let those weeds get too long at our Grimshaw law firm, we have a ticket, and it's a hefty ticket. And it's enough to remind me to get the kid out there to mow the weeds. Or the town will do it for me with the ticket, recoup all their costs plus a $500 penalty because I was forgetful. Peace River doesn't seem to do that, and I'm not sure why. It would improve. Yes, first it's punitive, but then it reminds people. I've only forgotten to get my weeds mowed twice in 15 years. So I gave my $1,000 donation to the town of Grimshaw, and they reminded me, don't do this because it looks like crap. Twice in 15 years, good lesson. We don't do that in Peace River. I have no idea why. I'd like to know why, because it all affects the first impression. The weeds, the streets that are dirty, the potholes, the no painted lines. So that is, I guess, first impressions. Yes, it affects people. Absolutely affects people. We're paying a higher tax rate already than a lot of communities our size. And what are we getting for it? Where is that return? We're not seeing it. I can't remember part 2 of the question. Could you remind me?
Absolutely. The part 2 was, what would you do to change that perception, if anything?
Okay. Thank you. So my change would be, we've got to start cleaning up some things. Somebody said before at the forum, the murals are nice. I don't know what they cost us. But they don't cover up the obvious problems that we have. The potholes, the dirt, the street cleaning, those all cost money. They need to be done on a more frequent basis. And we need to change the attitude around. We need to engage the community more as well. Pick up the litter, pull that weed. Don't wait for the bylaw guy to have to give the old lady a ticket, perhaps. Some of that needs to happen, and it won't happen overnight, but we need to better engage the community, better engage our residents to take more pride in their town. I feel like the pride is gone or diminishing, and I don't like it. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl, so much for that anecdote and your thoughts on that question. So Ted, I am just going to repeat the question because it is a 2-parter and it's a bit of a big question. So, people believe what they see. What is the perception of the town of Peace River for its residents and people visiting the town? And 2, what would you do to change that perception, if anything? Ted, you can go ahead.
You're on mute?
No, you're on.
Okay, so you've already seen this sign, but we'll slide it back up. What does it say? Clean the roads, paint the cracks. It says, it's upside down when I read it, so it'll look like I'm retarded and I can't read my own sign, but it's flipped over backwards. Now, what Cheryl said, look, we need complementary skills on council. And right on, Cheryl, you have my total support and I back you. We need you there because you look after different aspect that my pea brain doesn't, you know, complementary skills. And you notice all the same things, and you're also into the finances. And I understand that you run a whole legal show up there and you have experience. You fought for us before when you were involved with different issues. And your problem was that you couldn't get certain town officials to say anything openly. So it was recorded and help us. So I think you have good skills that'll be complementary and you will do a great job for us. Now, how I can help fill in what Cheryl said is she wants these things done, but how you implement them is important. So when you fill the potholes, if you do it with coal tar and you don't heat the surrounding potash or whatever it is, they don't bond the same way. And you got to put this kind of black goo in there that glues the two parts together. So when you have a freeze and thaw cycle, the pothole the coal tar just pops out of there like a cookie. It doesn't have the wherewithal to hang in there for a while. So you've got to do the old method where you hot tar or you hot asphalt the potholes and you heat the edges and you put the goop in. So when that baby is pounded in there, it's going to stay. Oh, we have something else coming up because, as you know, I had 9 different things to say, and so it's visual as well as oral. So there you go. Now, other things that we need to look at is why aren't the cracks done? It's a musician. She said, why are there murals? It's a magician's trick. Look up here, here's your nice mural. Well, I wrecked this shit over here for you because I'm not paying attention to basic infrastructure. If you haven't got money for bales of tar and the guys to tar the cracks, what are you doing putting up murals? It's another example of bad management decisions. And you know, this is a continuation of the last thing that I said at the other forum that we had like this. And I've been advised that I'm being watched more closely now by certain officials who will threaten me with lawsuits if I go too far. So I will just say top officials that led our council to sleep passed stuff like this that is a travesty when it's supposed to be a code of conduct that helps us all get along and work these things out. And it's anything but. We didn't get a chance to talk about that. And listen, that park that's up by Kentucky Fried Chicken, it was always a disaster because there was never any shade there. And if you pay more attention to the infrastructure that you do have and have an eye on what this is supposed to look like, because it's all a visual presentation. Oh, my little dog and cat friends, they need some support. So anyway, I think there's also other people that would complement. I could help them, they could help me. And look, political system is you got to reach quorum. Like when you're in a fight, let's do it old school. Let's get around the table. And when all 6 of us and the mayor are done, sick of each other trying to chew it to death, then we vote. And when 4 say that the other 3, it's done. And that's how you do it. And you try to get along while you're doing it. But this business in here that says, I can't talk about a council decision if I dissent and I'm on the side that was 3 and the other side was 4. No, I'm going to represent you and still say why I disagreed. But if the majority said it was fine, then I might have been dissenting. But the overall bigger brain than mine gets to rule the day. And if I can't convince them that my way is good and I listen to their points and be open-minded because I'm not so sure that I'm always right, I may change my position from the time that I started till the time that I end because of the new information that's presented to me. That's what I'm supposed to do. And I always run out of time to speak because I got too much to say. And then also, what about when are they going to open the river road again? What about that ramp that goes up to the post office? One person slipped one time 5 years ago and it's going to stay looking in that horror story and you can't resolve it so it doesn't stay closed like that. That's stuff that people come here don't like to see as far as the visual presentation.
Thanks, Ted. It's interesting as a resident, we drive around and we do see things through a different lens. And, whether you look up or down, different people appreciate different things and different things get under their skin. So I think you guys have brought forward certain things that most of us have noticed. So thank you for that. Also, Cheryl, I didn't know that we had about 100 employees for the town of Peace River. That was new data. So I appreciate that. Thanks. So the next part of the forum, Ted, Cheryl, is we have candidate selected questions. As you know, we selected 2 questions for you on this out of this list of 4 pages, but I know it was a lot of questions, but what we wanted to do is give you an opportunity to speak to something that was really true to you, something you wanted to bring out so that the individuals in Peace River who are going to be voting would consider that. So your questions, we're going to start with Ted, and we're going to move on to Cheryl. Ted, I'm going to read your question, and I'm going to read it twice, even though you already know it, but here's your question. So, Ted, there may be those who have fundamental differences with the Peace River Council or town staff. How should these differences be handled? I'm going to read it again. There may be those who have fundamental differences with Peace River Council or town staff. How should these differences be handled? Now you have 5 minutes, and I'll turn it over to you, Ted.
Well, see, when I thought that I was crazy enough to think that people might trust me enough to help save our town, I thought I'd better start to look into it early. Because if you're going to do the job and show you're going to do it, you don't wait till after you're into office. So that's part of why I started looking into this code of conduct thing, to do exactly what you just asked. Also, we're going to bring this up. Don't vote, can't vote. I'll still be here. I'll still listen. Because unlike if you can't vote for me, if you still come here and you shop and you're helping our town and you work in town every day, I don't care if you live in St. Isidore. I see you in the stores. You're one of us. We just have a technical line there that says that, ooh, you couldn't vote for me. When I'm in, your concerns, when you come to our town, you're in our valley, you're in my territory, you're under my protection, and I will therefore represent you too. So, taxpayers. There's guys that own businesses here like Chris France. We all know Chris, he's awesome. And he doesn't get a vote. Why? Because he chooses to live a little bit outside this line? He's a contributor to our tax base big time every year. And what happens here in the town totally affects him. I want to change it so there's a bylaw says if you own a business here and you contribute on that level, that you should also get a vote if that's possible, because it totally affects him what happens here. And yet he's got no say because he lives behind this invisible line when he pays more taxes for his business than some people that live right in town. That also goes for the awesome guy that runs Napa Auto Parts, and there's lots of other examples of it. And so that's my little thing on who should be included, and it should be more inclusive. And
but Ted, do you think, when it comes to questions on differences, right? So we don't always agree, and definitely there are those that don't agree with certain town decisions. So the question was really about like how would you handle differences?
Okay, well, we've got a system that we all see at work all around us, like Donald Trump fighting it out with the Republicans and the Democrats or whatever. And when one side gets more supporters that can talk each other into the same thing and they outvote the other side, then the majority wins. That's the democratic system. Now, if you do it with respect, and like I said, you listen to the other people's point of view, and from the beginning to the end, you may change your mind because you're supposed to keep an open mind. And if it's done in a civilized way, then that's how democracy works. And when you can't, if I am on the majority, my little group of 4 that thought enough the same to pass this thing won, and the other guys that were in the minority, in this case, it'll be 3 to 4 with Peace Rivers Council. Those guys are working just as hard as us, and you can't always share the same opinion with everybody. And when you realize that we're all working towards the same goal and it's difficult, then you respect them because they're trying to help just like you. And the next vote, you got to remember, you might be on the side that's in 3, and they might be on the side that has 4, and they win and you lose. So you better not gloat too much when you win, and be humble. And be too mad when you lose, because it isn't about that. it is and it isn't. It's all about, you can't always agree, but you do it civilized. And once the argument over, it's over, you agree to disagree. And when people ask you later, you just say, well, I was on the dissenting side, but we're all going to move forward. And maybe later on, I don't know, if it comes back up in 3 years, the guys that voted for the wrong thing, and too many of them did it, and you look at their record, they get kicked out. And because my record was, gee, Sisson didn't vote for these things and they turned out to be disasters, and so he deserves to stay in. That's how this process works. You just have to do it in a civilized way that respects everybody else and helps us govern, because you know, it's either that or a dictatorship. And that's kind of what we got now in the administration sense, I think. And it explains why a lot of this stuff isn't getting done, because there's actually, what if you didn't really want to do it? What if you were in a place where you kind of wanted to destroy it, and you wouldn't think that that's really possible?
10 seconds.
But, you know, so you've got to change it up so that your politicians or your governing body can work properly with your administration arm. And right now we know who's got to go, because it ain't working, kiddies.
Thank you so much, Ted, for that response, and that very deep and just a lot of different ideas there for sure that we need to reflect on. So thank you. Cheryl, I'm going to move on to you. So the question for you, I'm going to repeat it twice as Amber did. To achieve success in any organization, you must have the right people in place with the right attitude and aptitude. How will you ensure the town has the right personnel to achieve your goals and mandates? So again, the question is, to achieve success in any organization, you must have the right people in place with the right attitude and aptitude. How will you ensure the town has the right personnel to achieve your goals and mandates? Go ahead.
Okay, so I have managed staff all of my working career, and I've been in middle management most of my working career, where I'm trying to carry out the requests of the currently the lawyers that are my bosses, trying to keep them happy, trying to run the business the way they want it run, and also trying to keep the staff happy, trying to make sure their needs are being met. So I think this comes into that. I think the council would not be involved in the day-to-day managing the staff. But I think it's important that council knows that we do have the right staff in place. So what I would first suggest is we look at their performance reviews of our key management, our directors, the top guys, and see, are they meeting their objectives? What has been established? What is the goals of the CAO? Is it increased engagement? Is it, I don't even know. I don't know what would be on his list. Is it balancing the budget? I don't know. But ensuring that there are goals set out for the staff and that they're being reviewed and they're being discussed. If the manager of community services doesn't know what is expected of him or her, then it's going to be hard to do any sort of constructive development or coaching around what isn't happening. So the goal would be to make sure we have the right people in the right spots. Just because you've been in a spot for 15 years doesn't mean you're in the right spot. And that's something else that I would want to make sure we're assessing. There's a bit of an attitude where government employees sort of become complacent. I don't know that that's the fact at all with our town employees, but I'd want to make sure it isn't a factor. We want to make sure that they feel engaged, similar to what we want to do with our community members, really. And because I don't know the current culture or or how staff are feeling. I don't know where the problems are. But I would want us to be willing to tackle the problems. We want to make sure that staff feel engaged, that they feel safe, that they can come up with ideas for improvements, that they can see efficiencies, bring it to our attention. I'm not sure that that's happening in all of the different departments, or if it is, can it be improved upon? I'm worried about our debt. I'm worried about our high costs of payroll and debt payments. Possibly an area of looking to save some money can be employees. And so do we have some staff out of the 100 that have just kind of been showing up, punching in, punching out? We need to look at that. We need to address that. We need to do work improvement with those employees, see if there's a way to increase their efficiency or their productivity. That would be my goal in, I'm just going to look at my question again. The right people in the right place, right attitude. Yeah. The biggest concern is going to be the CAO. He is the one employee that does respond to council, the mayor and council. And I know he has a year left on his contract. I don't expect he will be thrilled if some of us get in. We have not had great experiences in the past. And so we will have to find a way to work that out, put those differences aside, start a clean slate, whatever needs to be done to continue to not waste a year. He's our CAO for a year. We need to figure out how to work with him, how to have him work with us and be a team, because we need to start things now. We're not going to wait around for a new CAO or to teach Chris the way we want to do things. I've thought about this a lot today, and I think it must be sort of an unsettling employer to work for all the town people, especially the CAO management, because your boss changes radically every 4 years. And that would be unnerving. So I don't want to come in and say we're going to start slashing
10 seconds.
And anything like that. But I do want to figure out where there could be more efficiencies. Are we recognizing the good performers for the performers that they are? And I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cheryl, for your response and just your thoughts on that question, because it's definitely a big one for sure. So before we hear our closing statements, I and our team and Amber and Jody would like to thank you all for attending this event and for the respect that you've shown throughout this evening and this forum. We do wish you all the very best as our Town of Peace River residents get out to vote this weekend at the advanced polls or on the day of the elections, which is October 18th. The polls will be open from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. And so again, we thank you very much for taking part in this. For our closing comments, each candidate will have 3 minutes. So just keeping in mind that's less than what you've had for the other questions. We will start with Ted and then followed by Cheryl. So Ted, whenever you're ready for your closing statement, thank you.
Ready?
Ready to go.
Okay, we are separate. Get that thing off the screen. Thanks. We are separate, but not really, because look, I'm your paid employee too. I get a salary if I make it in. Ooh boy, like 1,600 a month. 1,600 a month, kids. So I'm really doing it for the money. And that's not true. Obviously, I'm gonna follow in Mr. Boucher's footsteps. And even if he doesn't get in, I was proud of him for saying that he will give up his salary because he doesn't need it. And it's the thought that counts. And I can't do the whole thing, but I will put 250 bucks of it towards, how about the SPCA, kids? That's what I will pick. And for running these things, when Cheryl has to cut down the budget, because it's true, Cheryl, you got to watch where your employees are placed, especially if you're under fiscal strain, right? Because if you don't, if it's top heavy in the office and you don't got enough guys on the street, you might have to look at like paring down. How come we have brand new cop cars and they're called like, you know, peace officers instead of bylaw, and they're out on the bridge hassling our citizens for 5 kilometers over, when I think the money actually goes to the province, but they can't go and warn people. Graham used to come in the pickup and say, hey, Ted, your trees are hanging over the sidewalk too much. Do you want to cut them before I got to give you some, you know, a bitch slap? And I go, okay, Graham. Now they come dressed like miniature cops and intimidating cars and belts and pepper spray and handcuffs and all that stuff. And Chris has made his own little sort of, why are there two of them now? And what are they focusing on if we got all the weeds on the streets? So Cheryl wants these things done, but now you got to say, how am I going to get it done and who is going to do it? So if I don't know how projects are going, how people feel after they come out of meetings with our staff that runs this, and I can't ask questions about how that's going, because in this bylaw here, it says I will not talk about Chris Parker, his performance, or any of the staff, or I swore to this document and I'm in breach and he can get me in trouble for it. How am I supposed to do my job on reporting what's happening if the CAO won't even let us talk about him? How's Chris doing this week? But what's he working on? Oh, he's got these 3 big projects going on. 2 of them are going good. One we're having trouble with the developer with, but we think we can work it out. And we make sure it's the developer that's the one that's given us the problem. It's not the other way around. And Chris always blaming the victims. I think there's something wrong, man, and he's been destroying this town in more ways than one, and you're not going to get him to cooperate with us for the next year, because he's already demonstrated that that's impossible, and it's a drop in the bucket if we have to pay off one more CAO for another 5,000, because the money that he could rob from us and wreck versus what we got to pay to get rid of him, we can't do it already for breach of what he was supposed to do, and he's voided his contract. We should be able to just dismiss him for the stuff that we already know that's happened under his watch, because he's not for this
Sorry,
town.
Ted, we're going to have to stop you there.
Right.
Sorry, Ted. So we've reached the end of our hour together.
Cheryl still has to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, go ahead, Cheryl. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I apologize. Go ahead.
No problem. This has been so much fun, and I won the lottery getting to go with Ted. Like, this has been great. It has felt like a conversation. I get excited thinking that we could actually get to do this on an ongoing basis with residents, with other people concerned about the town, sitting around the table, brainstorming ideas and thinking of ways to improve the communication, improve the quality of living in our town. It's exciting, and I would love to be able to do that. I know there's issues we need to address, and we need to take we need to fix the problems, and but they won't be fixed overnight, unfortunately. So I would appreciate votes. I would appreciate your support. I hope we get some brand new ideas around that table. I hope that people can see that the status quo maybe isn't quite where we need to stay. I think we lost ground these last 4 years, and I'm sad about that. I think we can turn it around. I know we can turn it around. I know we have fantastic people, and that's what it takes. It takes the community to jump in on board with the council, with the mayor, with the employees of the town, and turn this ship around, so to speak, and start making people feel proud of their community. And there's going to be a few tough years, I think, ahead, some lean years. I'm not a big fan of financing our way through things. So yeah, I think this has been a really fun opportunity, and I've learned a lot, and I appreciate everybody's time. Make sure you get out and vote. I'm sad that the voting station is across the river and that our low-income people are struggling to get out there. but we're working on getting more volunteers to get rides across and make sure that people who want to vote have a chance to do so. That taxi program needs to get looked at, and that will also be something that we have to address. I think that's it. Thank you very much for setting this all up, ladies. And thanks, Ted. You were a great partner to do this with.
Thank you, Cheryl. And I'm sorry I interrupted you a little bit earlier. Just kind of to summarize, you know, as we said at the beginning of our forum, like this is the second of 5. And I really do appreciate that you've come and you've shared everything with us tonight. You know, I wanted to say thank you to the first session that just happened just an hour ago. That was a really great session. Also to the mayoral forum, you know, thanking Norm Boucher, Elaine Manzer, and Tom Day. They were kind of our guinea pigs, so to speak, and they were really wonderful. And I feel like we know them just a little bit better. I want to acknowledge as well, because we wanted to accommodate, you know, as many candidates as we could based on their schedules. We did have to make a number of changes, and I want to acknowledge that it was really difficult for many of you to be able to juggle your schedules, but you stepped up and you worked with us, and I do appreciate that, as do Victoria and our team. So just wrapping it up, Victoria, thank you so much. Jody Bekovich in the background, you've been wonderful. We want to, again, like you were saying, Cheryl, encourage all residents to get out and vote at the ski hill, which is going to be happening on the 8th and 9th of October, as well as on the 18th. That's the official vote, is on the 18th. And if you do need assistance or rides, please reach out. There will be many people that are willing to accommodate you. So our next forum is actually going to be taking place tomorrow night. And it's going to be with Wanda Lauren, with Chris Thompson, and Garrett Tomlinson. So that'll be another one with 3 more strong candidates. So I think Peace River is lucky to have such interest, and we're going to have great future representation. So on behalf of my team and the future teams to come, thank you so much, Ted. Thank you, Cheryl. Any last words, or we're good to go? We're good to go. Okay. Well, maybe we'll let Ted take us out of here with a little bit of his harmonica playing, because it's uniquely Peace River. So go ahead, Ted. You can take a few minutes. Take a second.
All right. I'm gonna work for our town. We gonna lay it down. Cheryl and me and some of the others you'll see will turn this place around.
And on that note, everyone, good evening, stay safe, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, everyone.